Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are tuning in from. Isn't that something amazing to even uh, say every night when we get a chance to do this? Because where we started out from a number of years ago is not where we are today. And that's kind of got me thinking of and kind of gave me the inspiration to talk to some other folks that do this all the time, stick their necks out there for the world to have at. And so I wanted to kind of bring a bunch of us together and have a little end of the year discussion. And so we're going to do a couple of nights of this. I was on Shadow with Shadow and about a 2 dozen other people last night. It was a smash hit. Maybe a little bit too many, a few too many people. Not everybody got a chance to speak last night, but we're going to be bringing out a whole bunch of others over the next 2 nights, tonight and tomorrow, same time, same place. Some heavy hitters, some people that you guys may not be familiar with, don't get to see every single day. But tonight we've got a few celebrities, heroes, and legends in the house. And without further ado, I'm going to bring some of them on. Here we go. Tajana, Dr. Mark Trozzi, Cris, Jody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming and hanging out tonight. So grateful to see you guys all again, and I hope we have a little bit of fun here. I hope you guys are having a great season, first of all. I got an echo here. I'm going to mess around with this because I've been having issues with this for a couple of days. So bear with me on my end. I'm pretty sure it's my end. But anyways, I'm going to start with this seems to be going from bad to worse, right? Um, if we'd been able to look into the time machine this time last year, um, what do you guys think happened over the year that you guys would have been able to say, aha, I nailed it? And what caught you out of left field that nobody saw coming? And so we're going to kind of take a look back a year and kind of lead up to where we're going and see in the next year so that this time next year we can get together and do this all again with better audio equipment and have some marker points on it. So floor is open. Tajana, have at her first, and I'll shut up.
Well, I would have never guessed that as a conspiracy theorist, I would have gotten any merit. And now that people are coming to me and asking me, hey, do you know what's next? So usually it was, oh, the crazy person just speaking nonsense. It's kind of cool to see how many people are really waking up and asking questions, even if it's a little bit, and putting little ideas, seeds in their heads, how it has really flourished over the year of us conspiracy theorists being right more than we were wrong, or speculative. I can't pronounce the word today. I apologize. I'm in the middle of moving, and yeah, so yeah, it's kind of cool to see how the world is truly waking up, even if it's just questioning things for a little bit. I think we have made a huge progress, and I think that all started with the trucker convoy in 2022, really showing the world what it's like if we actually stood united and stood together in peace.
I can't argue with you. There's been a lot of ripple effects over the last year, and that's some of the things that I've taken notice of. That we seem to think sometimes that it's over in that moment, but it isn't. Uh, Without the trucker convoy, we wouldn't have Christine Anderson coming to Canada. We wouldn't have people like Bruce McGray in the States blowing the whistle on the FAA. These people are openly, giving credit that it was a trucker convoy that inspired and motivated them. And that we talked about this a little bit last night too. Courage begets courage, and I think that's one of the things that I've noticed over the last year. We've seen a lot more people get a lot more courage. Jody and Cris, you guys, what didn't you see coming, and what did you nail?
Wow. So many things. I'd love to have a big wheel just to spin and take bets. We called the Palestinian thing. We've been calling the immigrants being activated for a long time. We knew we were coming into the Marxist phase of our communist journey here in Canada. So it was months before the Palestinian thing broke that we called that this was going to be a thing. Now, we weren't sure which band it was going to be, but we knew that the immigrants were going to be activated because we know they've been bringing in young males of fighting age for years now. So they've just been sitting waiting. So we knew that we were going to start to see something pop up probably around Christmas time, and we called it pretty early.
Yeah. We also figured that 2023 was going to be a horrific year, that we would see more deaths and more illnesses coming about due to the shots. But we also thought it would be the year of the great reveal, that more truth would be revealed as more and more people started acknowledging the fact that their illnesses actually started with the shots. And two, those who are in the movement, the freedom movement, truth movement, whatever you want to call it, movement, that we would start seeing more and more people who aren't necessarily true to the movement actually revealing themselves, or more government operatives showing who they are in the movement and infiltrating the movement, basically, and pushing it off kilter.
Mm-hmm.
Those were two things last year that we were calling out, and sure enough, it enrolled just as we thought it would. Yeah, the one thing that hasn't enrolled yet that we thought for sure would is the CBDCs. And we know that they're working on it. And I know from talking with my personal banker at CIBC that last year, Christmas time, she said that they weren't quite ready to roll it out, but she'd been in many meetings, but they were still working on the infrastructure and technology. And even to this day, that's still the same talk. And we know that now we've seen in the banks anyway, or in the CIBC that I bank in, we've seen the tellers being let go one by one. We've seen, go from 5 tellers to 2. We've seen the ATMs go from 3 to 2, less services available in the bank, less money available to be taken out. They're now putting limits on things, and we're starting to see more and more tomfoolery when it comes to our banks and our communication, which is something that we thought we would see and like full on this year. And it hasn't happened. It's just been sort of trickling here and there. So we know they're still working on infrastructure.
Dr. Trozzi, it's been a busy year for you.
Well, it sounds like it has for all of us. So good to see you guys. Well, maybe I'll be the science Sheldon in the biology department for a bit. So in terms of things that, again, I wish I could call wrong, but so the endless variants growing out of the combination of the initial virus combined with the fraudulent gene injections, I think I called that for sure. The continuing, obvious difference between the health that one has without the bioweapon injections and with the bioweapon injections, I think that's continued to advance. I didn't see Denny Rancourt coming in and doing so much great hitting along with Edward Dowd, so that now, as well as the autopsies, the predictability, the reasons that I warned in the first place about all this stuff, is now, 17 million dead, hundreds of millions injured, maybe 1 billion. So unfortunately, I kind of called that right too. I didn't see the. We were already on top of the chemical contamination, and we knew there was some shifty stuff with the proteinaceous components not being completely what they're supposed to be. But I didn't see the revelation of 30% DNA in the RNA shots. Pfizer and Moderna, and I didn't see that the SV40 promoter sequence would be one of the sequences that was completely fraudulently kept out of the paperwork by Pfizer, completely fraudulently, and that Health Canada would admit that, we never tested the second version of the drug. We just believed them because they're the biggest criminals in the history of criminal fines in the U.S. So I didn't see Health Canada being so ridiculous about that. And so the problem we now have, which is also SV40 and DNA, and it might explain things, that's a big one. I was wishing not to have dropped. It's just at every red light, the shots go from worse to worse. I think we've had some great heroes, Matthew Helma, and others make some great advances in treating the injured. It's helped us advance really healthcare in general in the corner of the resistance and where the truth exists. So about diabetes, cancer, all that. So I'd say I did okay for calling it, and the year did pretty good for shocking me with how evil things could be.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that consistently the push to get the science, the real science and the real evidence out into the public discussion. I think one of the things that shocked me is the volume of information that collectively the world has brought to bear against this agenda is astronomical and hasn't moved anything. We've still got all of our officials out there hammering the propaganda campaign, go get stuck. That shocks me. That surprises me that they are still doubling down on that narrative. And I think that that's really going to be one of the things that's going to be coming into play in the next year now that they've introduced this universal basic income. Nothing is for free, and this is where everybody's going. Yay! Free money from the government. I'll take $2,000. Will you? That's I think that one of the things, and that comes back to the CBDCs because that's all interconnected, and I think that's part of that same push. Those swamp creatures or have been meeting in earnest, focusing and specifically on how can they get this stuff done the quickest. So yeah, that's the surprise is that they're still doubling down on this insane bioweapon insanity, and it does they don't seem to I don't know what the next step is.
Well, I disagree with the idea that we haven't moved the needle. Jody and I went to New York, and we went to the SDG summit, where it was all about climate change, and these were the people who were pushing it forward. And they all basically said they weren't meeting their goals because of misinformation, disinformation, which interprets as we're doing our jobs. We're doing a really great job because we're pushing their goals back. We're pushing back their agendas. And Klaus Schwab gets out publicly and he says, they don't respect the system. Nobody's thinking of the system. Why won't they think of the system? And so he's basically saying we're bringing it down. So we're winning the info war. We're fighting two fronts. We're fighting a spiritual war and an info war, and we're winning the info war hands down. So the only concern there is I think they're activating the immigrants because they're out of shots. They're out of info. They're out of the narrative. They've lost the narrative. So now they have to go to the Marxist phase, which is, well over 100 years old. It's basically keep the fighters at home defending their family. We have, they're not going to do mandates anymore. They're going to let the immigrants keep us at home, and we'll get fed up enough to maybe this time we'll fire the first shot. And they've been trying to goad us into a fight for the longest time. So I think we're winning. I'm actually very encouraged because we pulled back the curtain. This doesn't look like the machine that you think it is. It's just a handful of people that are pushing a narrative and a whole bunch of people jumping on the bandwagon because they think they're going to make money. This machine that they've built is easily dismantled. And we've actually figured out the strategic points on how to do that. So we feel much more encouraged than we did going into 2023.
Well, I don't want anybody to be discouraged. I mean, obviously we're not in the same place as we were then. No, and I don't disagree with you on this uprising here because now they've created an impossible situation, and they're going to use that to try to leverage. Well, for equality of outcome, no more protests, no more public expression. If so, we're going to treat everybody equal. So regardless of where you come from, no more protesting or demonstrating allowed. That's one of the things that I'm afraid of coming out of this new wave of grassroots indignation here in Canada as it's being manifested. So that's one thing that I do see on the radar coming that is very, very important to me.
One of the things I'm surprised about, especially with all of the protests that have been going on, Ontario brought in Bill 100 last year, April. And yet I don't think there's been a single charge laid. And that was Ontario's big card to shut everybody up. And yet convoys are still happening. Protests are still happening. Then you've got the Palestinians, the Israelis, the Ukrainians, the Russians. Everybody seems to be protesting, but not one charge has been laid. And they've been shutting down bridges and infrastructure and blocking businesses' ability to earn an income. And still, they haven't played that card. That is the biggest surprise for me, I think, this year.
You know,
I think they're realizing that if they keep playing the card, they keep exposing themselves, and I think that's what's causing a huge rift even within the liberals themselves. I'm watching the LGBT community completely rip each other apart. Like literally community members of the community rip each other apart because they're getting so extreme in their thoughts and in their categorization of human beings as to what is correct and what isn't, that they're actually excluding a lot of the population from their so-called club that they want everybody to be part of. So I'm seeing them destroy themselves through their own tactics, and it's beneficial to us because now we have people seeing that these groups that they're making are so highly how should I say this, almost Nazi-like, where it's if you're not like this, you don't belong in society. Unfortunately, they're only going to have about 15 to 5% of the population left who will go along with their plans. So that's also kind of working towards our benefit. And I think that's why they're not shutting things down, because I think they realized that when Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland actually went into people's banks accounts, a lot of people woke up to the NWO and started believing in the world order and that WEF is bad and that the UN is bad. I think that's what really shook people awake more than the trucker protest itself. So their own actions are basically tanking their own ideals and their own agenda. Yeah.
Agreed.
Mark, you were going to say something there.
If you know, well, I'd like to jump in. You know, it seems like one of the biggest things coming into the new year, and never mind the new day, every day. You know, every day is Christmas and all that. But divide and conquer is their modus operandum, and I think for me, there's a reason that we need to hunt large game, and by that I mean there's about, I think, my guess, which could be off by a factor of 10, but I think there's about 3,000 psychopaths and narcissists that are of particular concern to me, our survival and our descendants. So I want to stay on target so that when things come up to, you know, give me an idea to get divided and start picking on anybody but those 3,000 people, to me it's a huge distraction, because you know, I was playing around with the numbers the other day and I said, well, if you look at, you know, how many are the high operative WF infiltrates, and if it's in the thousands, and if you consider that means approximately 8 billion of us last, somewhere between awake, innocent, crazy, a bit of a narcissist tagging along, but really not the major problem. You know, you come down to 8 billion to 3,000, which is something like 1 to 2.5 million, 3 million. And then even if you say, yeah, but only 10% of us. No, wait, only 1% of us. Well, now you're like, okay, so it's 250,000 of us for every one of them. So if we can concentrate our power and focus, we can get this job done. And then all the people running around crazy because of all the mad stuff that's been done to them, and the push button dopamine receptor buzzes and the commercials telling them, put on a mask, take off a mask, get a shot, don't get a shot. I think that's the dust that'll settle out. But I think we should really stay on target. And, you know, with it's funny, you know, I really admired these guys years ago. There was this rabbi and this preacher and this cleric. And they went around and they said, hey, man, there's no religious war between us. This is a political war, and our religions are being twisted on us. It's like suddenly we're going to fight over, I'm with the Michelangelo, I'm with the Leonardo da Vinci, you know, like Abrahamic gods And, you know, my Muslims friends were actually the ones who had the most beautiful things to say about Jesus this Christmas. I was blown away. Oh, bless you on the birth of Christ, the great, you know. So, so when we got to the thing that kind of came my way last year was I got asked to participate in the Million March for Children, which I thought was an amazing thing. I still think it's an amazing thing. I'm still involved. I'm still with the team. And so here we end up. To me, it seemed huge, but reality was there was bigger ones, 50 across the country. So there I was. I got Fatima with her burqa on over here. I got Jacob with the cool haircut here. I got all kinds of people, little old me, and we're all together loving one another, saying, you're not screwing our kids, you're not grooming our kids, you're not convincing our kids to cut off their body parts and go through your weird cult stuff, and then they can get MAID program without finding out until they send home the ashes. Like, so we were all protesting against that together. And, you know, honestly, it was the first ones among us in terms of how we could decorate ourselves as opposed to define and divide ourselves. But it was the Muslim Canadians who were like, whoa, wait a minute. We're still intact enough that we're not going to let them have sex with our kids and turn the school into a place with kitty litters at the back of the room and all this madness. So anyways, I was so grateful. I remember being in at a theater there in Toronto. I said, I've never been so grateful for all the Muslims in Canada, brothers and sisters. And here we are all together. It was a happy day. And we were all saying, you know what? I mean, they took our tax dollars from the North, went and bombed the shit out of the Middle East, right? Stole the oil and resources, sold some of the kids. The people now living in hell, they said, oh, we're going to bring you to Canada to take care of you, and taxed us to take care of them and said, nobody can have a culture. Let's face it. The truth is, if somebody's hurting other people, we'd want to go over there and like stop it. Like if your well breaks, I don't want to just get you to leave your house. I'm going to come help you fix your well. If somebody's over at your house trying to kill your wife, I'm going to come over there and whack them so you can keep your house. I'm not going to say, come on, hide in my house and it turns out the same people were doing the whole thing. We all get played. They've been playing us. They've been playing this divide and conquer thing. And the sooner we don't fall for it, you know, I don't care if you're gay or straight or lesbian or Muslim or Christian or Jew or Hindu or Buddhist or, you know what? Do you follow the golden rule? Do unto others as you wish to done. Are you going to live by love? And if not, and by the way, I don't recognize Satan worshipers. Satan worshipers, that's an evil cult. And that's the only religion I'm completely against. But I think that it was so disappointing when Netanyahu opens the gate, the same guy that sold the Israelis as guinea pigs to Pfizer. People got to remember, Netanyahu nobody was more abused in the world over COVID than the Israelis. And you know how much it sucked here. It was worse there. And then he sold them as guinea pigs for DNA data and the whole thing. I published on that. And then all of a sudden, the gate stops working. A bunch of guys run in, do horrific things. They should all hang for it. But who let them in? And then, it turns out this is justifying taking over North Gaza, bombing the hell out of it. Kids are dying in the rubble on Christmas Day in Bethlehem, all places. And they're just mocking us. And, you know, so that's why I say we got to end the divide and conquer, stay on target, take out the big game, and make the forest a safe place for the kids to play again. That's my rant.
Good rant.
I don't disagree with you on anything you said there. The scary part is where when we have society, police, enforcement, law agencies that tolerate one thing and exclude everybody else. None of us would have tolerated from our own community at the trucker convoy the behavior that we've seen lately in Canada. So I don't care who you are or where you come from or where you were born on the planet. When you come to our country, or even if you're born here, that kind of behavior is not acceptable. And these are the kinds of things that they've created, these impossible situations. You're 100% right. All of the chaos in the world is at the hands of these people that they create a wedge issue and then they just keep hammering on it and then they do it all over again. So to me, the big game is all of the points of the wedge issues that we need to be going after. Because I think our human base state is love, and they make anything but that absolutely impossible.
Yeah. I've always said there's only two types of people on this planet. It's not religion, it's not color, it's not sexuality. It's those who have gone through something and don't want others to go through the same thing. and those who go through something and want you to go through exactly what they went through.
Mm.
So basically, there's only two types of people on this planet, good and bad. Those that want to protect you from going down the road that they went or the hardships, and then those that put you in those hardships. And I think a lot of people have been so divided with ideology and trying to push other people to believe exactly what they believe. But I always keep telling people the world is big enough for all of us. We can, you know, act cordial in public towards each other and then live our lives without hindering or, you know, forcing other people to live our viewpoint or our lives as well. So definitely agree there that we need to start realizing that it's us versus the few 5,000 or how many ever there are psychopaths out there, and that most of us can actually live together very peacefully, even if we have religious background differences, if we have any kind of differences. It's super easy for me to live next door to someone. You know, I leave you alone, you leave me alone. If you need help, I'll help you. If I need help, you help me. Other than that, everybody has a right to live how they want to inside their own home, as long as they're not hurting or infringing on other people's rights or lives. And I think that's what will kind of come to light, I think, in 2024.
It's funny that you say infringing on other people's rights and stuff, because that's the argument that they used for everybody to get the shots. You're infringing on my right to be healthy. You're infringing on my right to, you know, dine or shop in a safe place. So I don't even like to use that terminology when we're talking about people infringing on rights. No, you either come from a place of love or you don't. End of story. So
That is, yeah.
Yeah, there's you know, for me, it's of course the deception is the problem, but they're very sophisticated in keeping that division going. You know, for me, the political theater is it's more pervasive than we think it is. I think everything is narrative. And I think I think most times both sides of the coin are the same people. So that's the problem. We buy into these narratives. And the second we expect somebody to come and save us or do our work for us, we've lost, you know. And I think the Palestinian thing got activated. Like, we've got two things going here. You've got the Hamas-Israel war, but that really doesn't have much to do with Canada or the US or the UK or Ireland. And when they all get activated, when all the Palestinians are protesting all over the world at the same time, at the same level, to the degree of fighting in New York now, that's much more than just protests. This is absolutely 100%, you know, a military operation. And that's where we are in Canada. Like, and make no mistake about it, it's going to get worse before it gets better. This has been happening. They've been gearing up for 5 years or so for doing this. But so for me, there's political theater. Now we're going to get a savior come in and stop it all, especially in the States. I see trending where the States are going to side with Israel and Canada is going to end up siding with Palestinians. And it's going to further the divide. And they've been pushing the narrative of Canada, US becoming more and more adversarial than ever before. So they've been doing regular talks. More and more people are just debating, should we invade Canada, because Canada is now a threat to the US. So, you know, for me, it's not the divide. That part's easy. For me, it's how do you navigate the minefield of this political narrative that is very well scripted political theater. And that's the hard part. I think if you don't have good discernment now, you're screwed. You know, that's not even taking into account what AI is doing on top of all that. So
yeah, I mean, when I look at the global situation, I think it becomes even more apparent that we have to close our communities and fortify and structure and be prepared for some horrible things. And it's not It's not even to do with the narratives or the protests or things like that. So much of what we're doing is in response, self-defense. So we don't even get to choose the narrative because we're continuously under assault, and that's the division. Right. And the longer we stay trapped in that little bubble of quid pro quo back and forth with each other, playing their narrative games, the more life and energy it sucks out of fortifying and strengthening and creating alternative ecosystems for us to thrive in. And so we're spending all of our energy and resources on doing that. And from the global situation, I think it's far, far worse. And it's a game we got no business, in my opinion, being involved in Ukraine or in Israel or Gaza or in any of those places. No business whatsoever being involved in that. Neither does America. And they've opened up cans of worms, and they're cutting checks that they can't cash.
Yes.
And when you talk about the narratives, I personally think that the media is the existential threat to humanity and the world, because they're complicit and most complicit in all of this. Without the media, none of this would be able to exist. The legacy media, as we want to call it, or the establishment media, whatever, the propaganda wings of all of these 3,000 or 5,000 people that control all of that, and what they are leading us into is beyond comprehension. I'm not talking nuclear. I'm not expecting a nuclear war simply because Russia doesn't need a nuclear war to kick everybody's butt. NATO, the best of the West, everything the alliance has got, they've thrown it at Russia, and it's basically done nothing. Putin is walking around the planet like the golden child. We got 28 nations sanctioned Russia, but 143 stepping up to do business with them. That doesn't bode well for us when the best we've got can't touch them. And you've got the Surgeon General for the U.S. Air Force stating that every flying officer should be grounded because they've been attacked with a bioweapon and they are no longer safe. You've got hypersonics that Russia has that will take out anything that we've got. And wait a minute. Now Iran's got that too. And so Putin doesn't have to fight a war with America. All he has to do is give America a taste of its own medicine and let Iran fight a proxy war with the U.S. and turn the carrier fleets into submarine fleets because they can. They'll be happy to. This is the repercussions of these psychopaths, because they are running out of steps in order to be the heroes, the carrot and the stick. They want to save us, but they have escalated so far so fast in what they need to do in their perception to save us that they are running themselves off the cliff, in my opinion. And I think that they are reaching the end of their days. This is why they're escalating all of this so much. And this is not to fearmonger. To me, this is time to celebrate. I mean, this is there is no victory without suffering. And the sooner we get the victory, the less the suffering is going to be. And we're a long ways from the top of Jack's beanstalk, from hitting the ground yet. So there's a lot of suffering to go through yet. But I think I see the end of the line, from the global scale, and I don't think it's going to go quite the way that they intend. They can build their rat bunkers as fast as they want. I don't think it's going to save them. No,
but they'll throw some curveballs this year, I think.
Yeah.
I'm finally, I've been saying it quietly. I've been telling people quietly for 10 years. Aliens are coming, and people are like, "You're an idiot." I'm like, "I know, but you're going to get an email from me one day just reminding you." This is that year. I believe they're actually going to use aliens as some sort of, whether they're real or not, who knows? But I think that's the big psyop coming out of the gate for 2024 this year. So
I think biodigital convergence is going to make a big play for everybody. Get into digital ID because you'll know where your children are at all times. And now, you've got the Sick Kids commercial out saying, hey, now you can take proactive measures to protect your children from their illnesses. So I think the big play this year coming up is biodigital convergence. And I don't think that they can bring in the CBDC system until people buy into the digital system. And we know Horizon Horizons has amped up their game with regards to the Canadian government, and what they're doing and what they're experimenting with. So that's my prediction, is we're going to see a lot more biodigital convergence being pushed on us, and more people buying into it, especially when kids are dropping and parents want to protect their kids. That's why they rushed out and jabbed them to protect them. So as their kids are getting sick over and over and over again, and I see it with the teenagers around our area, certain teenagers that have basically lived in my house for the last 12 years were never sick. They go and they get the jab for work or because of their parents or whatever, and they are sick all the time. These same parents that signed them up, they're going to be going, hey, you should go get this, because then it'll tell you when you're going to get sick, or it'll stop you from feeling whatever. So I think that's going to be the big push.
Well, that is so 2022 of you there, Jody. Wasn't it September 12th of 2022, Biden issued that executive order
Yes.
Stating about how the American economy was going to move from a war-based economy basically to a biodigital economy. And
Yeah.
These were some of the things I think, Tajana, I think that was one of the first things you and I talked about when we first started talking, was this merger of exactly that, our so-called health system being turned into this biodigital foundation for exactly that. That was even before Biden's executive order. Mark, it must hurt your brain a little bit to hear us talking so bluntly about this in the field that you've spent your entire life saving people. And that's we're for your kind of saving people. We don't want any of this stuff, but it's got to be hard for you to navigate the conversations between the kooks like us and the life that you have.
Well, luckily I deal with kooks like you guys all day long, because I work so deeply in the medical truth movement that you may go through a lot of doctors or scientists or nurses to find one you really like, but in my group, if you'd be looking hard to find one you don't like, because this is where all the science truth guys are hanging out. So I live in a kind of a strange bubble, though I'm aware of things. I'm probably more aware of what's going on medically than I am in some other areas. I find, both looking back and looking ahead, this central theme keeps coming to me, which is, I promise I'll put a different spin on it, but that this not being divided issue. So, for instance, and again, here I'm speaking outside of my area of expertise. I'm just a guy in the corner sharing his thoughts. But I remember back when the usual suspects of the corruption that give the West and Christianity a terrible name for the things they go around doing, trying to, with our tax dollars. But back when they basically chased the rightfully elected president of Ukraine because he chose to increase economic trade with Russia rather than the European Union. And then you had some kind of a neo-Nazi group turned loose, financed by these banksters and their crook friends, to basically do some terrible terrorism, lighting buildings on fire with people in it and the whole thing. And then you have the Crimean people vote like a huge, like 95% say, yep, we don't want to be part of Ukraine. Okay, not part of Ukraine. Again, 90+% vote. We want to be part of Russia. Check, you're part of Russia. And even preceding that, there was treaties between Russia and Ukraine to have so many soldiers there. I believe you had within that limit number of soldiers. And the West, who fired, not the West, not you and me, these guys that are dressed up like us doing horrific things, just like the guys dressed up like Muslims doing horrific things. There's guys going around the world dressed up like us doing horrific things. Joe Biden, Trudeau, etc. And so the whole Ukraine thing, it got off to a shaky start for me. And then when I would turn to these leaders to find out what's going on, right, I would get these little weird, cheesy things that made you feel creeped out by Trudeau. I could get, either Trump made making some kind of cool, catchy lines, or I could get Biden who's sniffing kids and wandering around, fucking obviously out of his mind. Or I could listen to Vladimir Putin, who would go, well, when you look at the historic of the region, and you look at this, and you consider the guy was at least showing my brain some respect. I could listen to him for an hour, and he made sense. So while Canada is becoming this communist dictatorship, tyrannical rule, I kind of give Putin a fair bit of credit. So, then you get to the biolabs on the his kid with the laptop, the deals in Ukraine, like the whole thing's so filthy. And then now we're sitting around, now that Biden and the rest of these essentially crackheads have got this war going, right, based on our tax dollar, well, the Americans' tax dollars, and like pictures of their flag, and somehow as if it represents Jesus, which it surely doesn't. And the Americans are sitting around going, well, can we actually win this fight? It's like, no, you shouldn't even be in it. And that's the point. We got to look at how these fights got started. This fight shouldn't even be going on. And by no means, I did not pay taxes to kill Gaddafi, to bomb Iraq, to finance the blowing up of the Twin Towers. We got to remember who did all this stuff. And then every time they get us divided into groups. Now we've got dead babies in Palestine, Palestinians protesting where they've been displaced because of bombs. They've played off everybody. It's all set up perfect. But you know what? All of my friends, man, we got about 3,000 to 5,000 enemies. Let's get focused and everyone let's cool down. And figure out how to win the wars they started. That shouldn't even exist. The wars should end. We should arrest these bastards. And when we're cleaning up the big pharma, poisoning the people, we'll be cleaning up the wars and the banks and all of it, because it's all the same mother.
I couldn't agree more. I know that the Ukraine war couldn't exist without Chrystia Freeland and Stephen Harper going back to 2011, 2012. We facilitated, set the foundation, and made all of that possible. Even our own, as much as I like to rail on them, our mercenary media, the legacy media, as late as 2019 was still reporting that the Canadian government was funding and training Nazis in Ukraine. But yet when Putin says he wants to denazify the Ukraine, we're all conspiracy theorists. So it's, I don't pick a side in this war that is against anybody but us. We have facilitated this. We are the root cause of all of that. We need to get the F out of there and make some really big apologies and go through a denazification process of our own, because the real, and I'm even kind of shaking saying this because it's probably going to get me removed from all of these platforms. So thank you for getting removed in advance.
If you're watching on YouTube, please switch right now. Click.
We were dealing literally with the next evolution. The Third Reich never died. It was rebranded, recast, refinanced, and it is now the World Economic Forum, United Nations. That is the Fourth Reich. They are the root cause of all of these things. All of these things. That's the core of those 3,000 to 5,000 people that need to be held to account and reckoning. I'm not a judge, but I think we need some judges that are capable of making the right decisions, and there will be more than enough of us to deliver these monsters to them. But that's, I don't know how much more base I could make it, but that's how I see it.
Well, absolutely. Can I ask one quick question just for a comic break? Doesn't Klaus Schwab look like Colonel Klink?
Yes. Yeah. What was the strategy in picking an actual Bond villain to lead up your cause, right? Couldn't you make it more obvious?
The funny part of that is all of these guys, the George Soroses, the Klaus Schwabs, in Canada, Chrystia Freeland is the number one hand to both of these evil beasts.
Exactly. Conflict of interest.
And the right hand of the other.
Yeah.
Right? And yet, she's going to, be the adult in the room, and she's going to, look after, making sure that, we get looked after, because, Oh my excuse me, gosh.
I trust her. I think it really is a shower, and we should just strip down and jump in.
Ew. Right?
No, thank you.
Yeah. And now you're going to get kicked off the platforms. There you go.
Tag, I'm out.
This is why there's a mute button
off YouTube just by
Because
having
of
Mark
you.
on.
Well, I started
You
it.
got
Here we go. Pick me.
Yeah.
Tajana, you've lived all this before. You've seen this all before, and you're not arguing with us.
No, like, I mean, I've seen it, I've lived it, and everybody from Eastern Europe is trying to tell born Canadians what's about to happen, especially with the UBI, how they slowly bring this in, how they entice you with rewards, how they entice you with monetary things, and how it's okay for like a little bit until it's not okay. And then after that, they will corral us into a situation where we can't get out of, especially if those UBIs turn into CBDCs and then the digital ID being their final goal. So it's absolutely crazy to me, because as I said before, there's two types of people. There's those people that have gone through something and don't want the others to go through the same thing, so they're trying to warn them. And I find the arrogance of a lot of these liberal Canadians who not only haven't traveled outside of Canada, but they haven't been taught history properly, who go based on these propaganda marching points or, arguing points that the TV gives them. And they truly believe that, the government has their best interests at heart, even though the government has proven over and over again that they do not have their interests at heart. But it's just absolutely amazing. And it's what scares me the most is I know we're fighting the elites, but we also have 20% of the population who are fighting for the elites. So it's their free army. And you unfortunately cannot get to the elites if these sheep, or NPCs, as pretty much the CIA calls them, useful idiots, are in the way. Because they will usher anything in that the government wants, and they truly believe that the government has the best interest at heart, until it affects them personally. But by that point, that's going to be too late. So on one hand, we're fighting the elites. We've got the UN, the WEF, the Club of Rome, and all of these secret societies who are putting this out there. But on the ground, what's kind of keeping us from moving forward are these absolute useful idiots who are the most moronic human beings I have ever met in my entire life. The government keeps telling them to keep taking shots, and they do. And they are the ones that will usher in these policies when these policies come out. So even when we were fighting 15-minute cities and we were basically telling them what the UN will do and how they're pretty much building the infrastructure, all these talking point heads can say is, oh, you guys just don't want progression. You just don't want us progressing into this utopia. And the sad part is these useful idiots think they will be part of that utopia. They're just a tool to get us there, but they're completely useless to the government. I mean, why would the government keep paying a bunch of welfare liberals monthly salaries to have them keep alive for doing nothing? That's not what the slavery system that they want to impose on us will actually get to. So what they don't understand is that they're just being used as absolute tools to usher this in, because they're too stupid, and then they're going to be the first ones to go. And that's not just on a regular population. That happened with the government, even in former Yugoslavia and in other places where they brought in communism. Once they did bring in the communism, even the politicians got taken out for helping bring it in, because now they need to slim down the fat and get the control in, and you can't control something if there's too many people out there with any kind of even side beliefs that differ from who wants to lead the world. And I think that's kind of been a hurdle to get over in Canada, especially with the amount of MK Ultra victims from Justin Trudeau's stepdad bringing in MK Ultra to be done on, Canadians back in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing these absolute fluoride zombies just drooling and just parroting everything that the TV is telling them. And the government's using them as a human shield pretty much. But once we get to a certain step where they're not needed anymore, the government will get rid of them as well. So
they're literally like the elites playing their video games with endless live lives, building their castles, and in their little Tetris game, and disposing of all of the game characters as like, oh, we just lost another 100,000 men. Oh, no big deal. Poof, there's more. And that's what the role that these fluoride zombies, as you call them, that's their role in it. And it, that's unfortunately, it goes deeper than that. Even the people that try to do good, you look at the people that are out there, the law enforcement, the firefighters, the soldiers, and all like that. They're doing what is right, but they don't realize that, or they don't have any say in the fluoride zombie that's playing the video game.
No, but what will end up happening is everybody who wants the UBI and thinks it's this amazing, amazing thing, what they don't realize is they're now in the process of writing the regulations for this. Yeah. And we don't get a vote. We don't get a say on these regulations. So 100% in order to get that nice little carrot, that little piece of cake, you're going to have to get the digital ID shot into you. And why wouldn't you? You've already lined up for 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. So what's another shot? I get my $2,000 a month. I get to bank. I get to shop. I don't have to line up. It's wonderful. And it's exactly what they're going to do with the 15-minute cities as well. All these people are going to get their shots. They're going to become digitalized. It'll be very easy then to buy into the 15-minute city because that's what everybody else is doing. And that's where all my stuff is, right? And when it was funny, we had my sisters and stuff over for Christmas, and we're all awake. None of us are shot up. We're all awake. And she started talking about how easy life is all of a sudden, because all she has to do is pick up a phone and food magically appears at her door. And, she never goes shopping anymore. She never buys anything. She never gets in her vehicle to go anywhere anymore because all she has to do is pick up a phone. So when they start saying, hey, you don't even have to pick up a phone anymore. You can just think it and it'll come get this biodigital shot. Right. Fantastic. I can see her lining up even though she's awake. Because she doesn't understand that what she's doing now is taking income away from somebody. And now you're driving that person to no longer have a job, no longer have income. Now, all of a sudden, UBI is looking even better. And all you have to do is get a shot.
It's absolutely back to that biodigital convergence, and people are asking questions about that. And it is literally biology converging with technology, and we don't realize the minutia of it. How can you get into your phone without giving him your fingerprint anymore? That is biodigital convergence. The camera on the doorknob that records and tracks and recognizes you, that is by getting into your computer. These are all of the things that are making it impossible for us to go backwards on, right down to your vehicles. I saw a post the other day where, you cannot upgrade your computer on your vehicle because of so-and-so, whatever excuse. It doesn't matter. That's the point of it. Controlling all of the biology, us, the creatures, through this convergence of technology. And
I see that Jarrett Bonnet put up the link to Horizons. I actually thought they took it down. I had heard that they had taken that site down.
No, it's still up.
So biodigital convergence, go read through that. It makes it look really great. It's a massively awesome marketing pitch for for you to become the Borg. Just go on vacation with your brain. And that's it's mind-boggling to me that so many people think that Elon Musk is a good guy. And this guy's literally building a chip to go into your brain to hook into his satellite. He bores tunnels,
for the
everything
elites.
He does.
It's connected to the agenda, the narrative.
Right. And everybody buys into it and thinks he's a good guy.
And yet he's the only one that lets us talk about it. He'll actually let us criticize him about it. But
wait, does he?
Does he? Though?
Does he? There's visibility filters. So you're not kicked off. And actually, there's still a lot of people not allowed back on Twitter yet. But he's got visibility filters going. So the illusion is that he's not censoring you. The illusion is that your stuff is getting out there. But is it? Because I know between Cris and I, it most certainly is not getting out there.
No, and I'm pretty sure AI is running the show over at Twitter now. So it is pushing narratives as it wants, downplaying narratives that it doesn't want. So AI is absolutely running the show over there now.
I sent them a message that I willfully thinking that I was going to get myself kicked off of there permanently. It was so scathing. I was so angry. I still didn't have my first primary account back. I thought, okay, I was choked pit, right? And so I gave them the best I had, and I was just waiting for my termination notice, and poof, I got my original account back. Huh?
Wow.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I asked them to stop visibility filtering me. So far, no go. So, yeah, I mean, that's we're looking at other things though, you know, and as far as distractions go, we're looking at that Pfizer Canada contract in great detail and comparing it to Israel and South Africa. We're in the middle of writing a Substack on it. And we all say that Pfizer are the villains here. They are not, they're complicit, but our government are absolutely the villains. They knew exactly what they were signing on to. They knew exactly what they were giving us long before that report came out in April. These guys, they are
Pfizer disclosed it right in their contracts, that what was her name? Anita Arand
signed this thing.
It says right in there, it's still being tested. We don't know that it's going to do anything that you want it to do. It's not going to save you. It's still going to transmit. We don't even know the harms that it's going to get. But if you want it, you take it. And there are no refunds if it doesn't work. Sorry.
Pfizer only exists to provide a target for the lawsuits to go broke. And once they've broken Pfizer, then there's like, oh, well.
Oh, no. Pfizer's not going to go broke. Read and Chris's Substack will come out. He's been going through it in absolute detail. And we had lawyers Colin Brown and Daniel Freit on our show to also help us break it down from a legal perspective, a criminal law and a corporate lawyer to break it down in from a legal perspective.
Plus we'll have a medical opinion coming soon. So
and but every single bit of liability is 100% put back on to our own governments. If Pfizer gets sued, it's our government that pays for the lawyers' fees. It's our government that pays for any wrongdoing that is found. Our government has literally said, we will take full responsibility, even if it's a third party suing you, Pfizer. We got your back. We will cover all expenses. It says this in the contract. So Pfizer is not going to go broke from this. Pfizer was upfront, and Pfizer has made the contract with Israel and South Africa and Canada that those countries will 100% pay for every single penny that Pfizer spends, even if it's to fix the vaccines, even if it's to pay a lawyer, even if it's just to walk their dog so they can go into the office. Our government's paying for that.
Yeah, it's this contract is so much more vile, and it came out like over a month ago, and I don't know why people like the FOI got returned on that, and I don't know why this hasn't gotten bigger news. So we are going to make sure that it breaks, because this proves criminal negligence
on our government's behalf.
Proves it beyond a shadow of a doubt.
And it even says in the contract, that even if we find out later on that it doesn't work and all of the approvals get pulled away, the government still has to pay 50% of those doses they never got.
Yeah,
there was Australia where it was leaked, where the government had actually in their own legislation left the onus of culpability and responsibility on the employers, and that's kind of I think what they're going to end up doing here. The government's can say we didn't force anybody, so it's it's going to be left up to the employers, people to go after the employers, even no matter what extortion was used. The government's going to ultimately say we didn't make you do it. So I think that's part some of what we're going to end up seeing too. In that, the only video I ever had removed from Rumble was the Veritas style recording of the head of the American Teamsters Union up here with the rail company telling them, look, guys, we know that this is illegal, but the boss is Trudeau's buddy. We're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
That's the only video Rumble has ever removed of mine. And so that tells me right there that the companies, the corporations, they knew right from the beginning. That was 2 years ago.
Of course they did. And just to add on to that, not saying that Pfizer's not a horrifically evil company. I told Mark just the other day that at the bottom of the contract, it's signed by two guys, the vaccine leads for Canada, Fabian Paquette, and Pfizer Canada lead, the CEO, president of Pfizer Canada, Cole C. Pinau. Both of those guys who brought in the vaccine and made sure it got delivered into arms, those guys now have been both moved out and put into cancer departments
at Pfizer.
In Pfizer. So now they're both leading cancer departments. And I see that Lonnie put something about Pfizer now owns the company that handles oncology to beat turbo cancer. So
they knew.
That tells you something right there.
Yeah.
That I got my first taste of that working with a company that could detect cancer in patients from the split of the very first cell, and Bill Gates swooped in and bought it up, and I've never seen anything come of that company ever since. And that was here in Canada.
Wow.
That's going back 2014, 2015. I was working with a couple of companies fighting Health Canada in that department, and so this is a long history of this, and these the rewards for the good soldiers. You're going to get yourself a good CEO position, and who is the new premier or something of New Zealand? Wasn't there one of those that their leader or whatever the heck it was just moved right into massive corporation? That's the kind of the games that the 10,000 that work for the 5,000. That's the next level of that. And those. I think that comes down to, and guys, if you're out there, Google this one, the businessroundtable.com. It is literally the heads of state of all of the Boeing, the Silicon Valleys, all of these guys that are driving this entire agenda of the forced social credit system for the businesses, the DEI, ESG that are extorting the companies. That's all coming from the military industrial complex and through that board and organization. So that's one of that smaller group of the 1,000, the top 1,000 that we need to be hunting. So I'd like to see somebody do some deep dives on that. I can't be the only one. Well, makes me a target.
Well, no, let me help out with that, because I've been kind of looking into this myself, and looking at, of course, I spent a lot of time looking at contemporary technology and science and everything, but sometimes coming up empty-handed, I started digging back and looking for maybe there's old tricks we could use. And it may just be like wives' tales, but I've come across some old literature, which has made me consider that there may be a role for garlic necklaces, silver crosses, and then apparently during the day, you'll find these creatures in wooden boxes sleeping on some ground from Transylvania. And apparently wooden stakes and mallets can help to save the children. Now, I don't know what to do if you get to the coffin and you open it and they've got a bunch of pieces of paper signed by them and the other vampires saying they were allowed to eat your kids. But perhaps the wooden stake would still, work. I don't know. I'm still researching it.
I think the more stakes we use up, the shorter the supply of that magic juice is that keeps those bug-eyed freaks alive and still going at like 193. That adrenaline stuff that they're all addicted to. I think that would be the fastest way. So good old-fashioned wood would probably intervene on some of that that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the, an ode to the best Alex Jones conspiracies out there that are no longer theory, but still dwell in the realm of conspiracy.
Well, folks, this was advertised as some hooligans, so it's more of a fun social. We're not issuing a press conference at the end of
No.
this.
That was kind of what the atmosphere that I wanted to have with this too. When I first brought this up with Shadow several weeks ago about doing something like this, the best of the best, in a nods to the Alex Joneses and the Tucker Carlsons and the Julian Assange, Edward Snowdens, and those guys out there. Which kind of reminds me, I think that there's another conspiracy or another theory that seems to be coming to light that needs discussion. What is up with Tucker Carlson's latest interview
with Kevin Spacey? Yeah.
What the hell is going on? Who's one foot in, 1 foot out? Is that what he's doing? Just playing both sides of the coin to make sure that his pockets are still lined at the end of the day? Like, what the hell?
I don't too often glitch out, but when I did that, I was like, when I saw that, it was like, is this AI?
I was doing the same thing. Is this a joke? Did somebody take an old interview and sort of mash it together? And like, what happened? It was so bizarre. And Chris is like, this isn't how he talks. And I'm like, no, that's his character from House of Cards. Like, is this an old interview and somebody has AI'd it, like you said, or Adobe'd it to death and put this out as a joke? I'm like, this is bizarre. This is very bizarre.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of one of the left field ones that caught me. I had always taken Tucker with a grain of salt, but I'd kind of been enjoying, the newfound freestyling Tucker. But that one kind of took the wind out of me. So I'm going to see if there's any possible way that I can get to his event here in Alberta. But $500 a pop is pretty dear to Tucker. But man, I would love to ask him some questions about that, because since that interview, he's come out deflecting and more negative towards Trump, which I also kind of find, no, I would never be Trump, VP, kind of, it's not my place, kind of where he was before, kind of just riding it out. But I saw him more cajoling with Spacey towards the positive, and now coming out again, wow. I don't know. That's a watch what's up in 2024 to me. That's the soap opera of the day, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a definite nod to a speech he gave at Christmas on House of Cards 5 years ago. So there's that. And then there's another speech of him talking to Congress. And people put those three videos together with his Tucker Carlson thing. So they're definitely kind of alluding to the fact that everything is false. And Kevin Spacey saying, like, you don't know anything about me, and you never actually saw me do anything. So I think what they're kind of saying is, like, the House of Cards, somebody's just said it, Gay just said it, House of Cards are coming down. And I think that's kind of what their cryptic message was, that it's all being pulled apart now. So I don't know. It was weird. It was weird.
It was really weird. And I'm going to cling to that theory like a life preserver for a little while. So I was going to keep this to 2 hours. So we're already into the second hour here. I kind of want to get into some of the stuff that you guys are seeing coming. I'm sure Mark will be back. Tajana, what is it that has your interest peaked that you see that you're going to be watching like a hawk for coming into 2024?
I think it's just going to be the organized chaos that they want. So for how many years now have they been grooming people to just virtue signal and to have absolutely no value behind themselves except for what they put out online and how they virtue signal? And I think now it's all coming down to a point where even the virtue signaling doesn't work anymore. And so I think that this year is going to be extremely interesting. I think anything that they throw at the wall, because right now, watching the elites is like watching a monkey fight in a zoo, and they're just throwing shit at each other and at walls, hoping that anything sticks. And so when you watch monkeys like shit in their own hands and throw it everywhere, you know, and you're just kind of watching this, eventually all the monkeys are going to get covered in shit. And then you kind of will see through the veil. So I think 2024 will be a lot of truth will be revealed. I think they're trying to hurry it up. That's why with the, you know, the Spacey interview, I've also heard that anyone who says no to him ends up dead. So, you know, there's that.
Three of the four alleged victims so far.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things in the background that's being worked out that we don't really understand, that I don't think a lot of us understand, even the higher ups, because it is so high up in the elite circle of what is happening. And I think they are absolutely underestimating the mistakes that they made in 2020 with all of the gaps in science and everything. I know that legally they have protected themselves very well. That was played out amazing by them. However, it's now they have lost absolute belief in from people. And if they want control, they need people to believe them. And the trust in the system is so low that at this point, I don't think there's much shit that can stick to any more walls, because it's already so covered in shit. That now it's time to just start cleaning up the zoo and maybe, you know, put the monkeys behind bars for a timeout so they can't keep throwing shit at each other. So what I'm going to be watching is the absolute theatrical chaos that they're going to try and get. And then we will just put out the actual information out there to counter that. And so far, we have gained a lot, I think, in the fight, because Klaus Schwab isn't even talking about the environment anymore. He's basically just saying, you're not allowed to be a libertarian, you know, dissidents are an issue, blah, blah, blah. So you can see that they're losing a handle on things. And unfortunately, narcissists have a very low IQ, but a high ego. And when that realization comes into play, that kind of dive from the ego to the IQ is a pretty big one for them. And I don't think they're smart enough to pull back the reins and gain control over anybody. So it's going to be an interesting year to see them throw shit and then see how people react to that. But I don't think it's going in their favor this year.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of comments throughout the whole show here. People, you know, questioning about the Black Swan event, the Black Swan event, the Black Swan event. But you know, I want to highlight this for just a second, and I think that Vanessa's 100% right here.
Yes,
I think they're 100% in implanting the Black Swan event into our consciousness, so that when they manifest it, they can say, "See, we told you so." This is exactly what they're trying to do, and I think it's my personal opinion that the Obama's movie that they just published was exactly that. That premonition, that foreboding, that projection of civil war to be that Black Swan event that would give them the cause and purpose and justification to hammer down with their jackboots, bring in the UN blue hats to reestablish a rules-based international order. And I think that the best thing that we can do is just laugh at them and not take part. We cannot accept and take part anybody or any facet of anybody trying to start a civil war. We don't need a civil war. We need to continue with education, information to get through this transparency phase, so we can get to the accountability and justice phase. And that's the part that has them terrified. Is we're getting through this information phase, even though they tried to turn us into North Korea as far as their information sharing. But no, I think it's over for them. We just got to resist that temptation to take part in the desperate, the desperation of thinking about civil war. Love each other instead of fighting each other, and we'll be a whole lot closer to winning.
If I can put some comic relief into that, all I can say is, if you guys have met the rednecks of like the United States, they have tanks. Like there's civilians who have tanks. There's civilians who have helicopters and
Yeah.
AK-15s. If the UN actually wanted a civil war in the United States, it would be like a weekend redneck 4th of July.
Yes.
And, you know what I mean? It would end on a Tuesday with all of us drinking beer and pretty much laughing. And if you told the Canadians, hey, these guys, the UN said your hockey team sucks and we got some free beer, you know, we'd be down there helping them out. And it would just be like a one long weekend redneck fest of like going after the UN. So, I mean, if they want a long weekend where we can have a new paid holiday, for sure, bring it. You know what I mean? But like, other than that, like, you know, what's the UN gonna do? They can't even win any other war in the Ukraine right now. So they can, how should I say this nicely? They can suck a satchel of Richards for 2024. That's my PG rated 13.
Well, after your long diatribe about throwing shit, I don't know if it's maybe it's a little late.
Well, if I can just put an extra spin on the comedy, because it's nice to see twists and turns, you know. But the Black Swan thing, and forgive me, my internet cut out for a while, but anybody using the term Black Swan right now, that with the Goblin team, I mean, that term has already been claimed by Edward Dowd for 2023, and the Black Swan event was 13 standard deviation points of disability following the injection. So Black Swan already happened, and it was the injections that the thing about the UN too, when we think about like their ability to kill, the UN gave birth to the WHO, and the WHO was just used as the conduit from Vanguard, Blackrock, Pfizer, Trudeau, you know, etc. The whole little nut club of the WEF, but they just used the WHO as the conduit of control through which they transferred the greatest wealth transfer in history, and murdered so far at least 17 million people, and the death count's accelerating. And so I think in terms of their ability to kill people with their strange new methods of war, I think they're really good at it. And, you know, so, you know, a guy sitting with his hunting rifle while the spike proteins take over his brain isn't quite a victory. So I think Bruce Lee said, you know, never underestimate your opponent, like, because you'll never get in trouble being like a little cautious. I don't mean fearful, but cautious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we have been doing deep dives. We downloaded the Agenda 21, and then from that, they referenced so many documents that we started printing off all these documents, and our stack is like this.
It's massive.
And, you know, it's been dawning on us that I think we've been looking at this all wrong. What they're doing is they're trying to move evolution forward. So it's more about eugenics than depopulation. They're trying to create an image, the world in their own image, and they're trying to create the next evolutionary stage of man by getting rid of the useless eaters, the non-thinkers, and so I believe that philosophy more than just the depopulation, because nobody thinks they're evil. So all these people signed on to this agenda, they think they're doing the world a favor by helping climate change, and so they give us a problem, but they also give us a solution. Like they will give us McDonald's and bad nutrition, but they'll also tell us about good nutrition. So if we rise to the challenge and get over that, then we're worthy to go forward. And that's one piece of the puzzle. But what they've also been doing since 1953, I believe, is mapping genomes. So they've been going around the world and finding the best plants, the best animals, the best genetic,
the best soil, the best of everything that the world has to offer. And
so they've been creating these biomes. And I think we've been looking at wrong instead of a world population that they're trying to depopulate. Think of it as they see us as a series of zoos, and they're preserving for themselves the best biomes. And in the bad zoos, it's like an ant farm. They're just shaking up the ant farm and making us fight, right? So So I think we've not been seeing it the way they've been seeing it. And I think examples of good biomes are Costa Rica, and Maui is a really good biome. So look what's happening there. They're getting rid of the people. They're getting the properties. So Geneva, Switzerland, Switzerland in itself, Galapagos Islands. So they're saving the best biomes for themselves and just killing the rest of it, like with chemtrails and getting us to fight and leaving us to our own demise. So we're kind of taking care of our own things. That's sort of how we see them moving. That's how they see the world, I believe.
And they kind of allude to that in the Pfizer contract as well, because they talk about, everything must be detailed. The good, the bad, the ugly must be detailed. And if there's any benefits or negativity, it must be reported within 24 hours, the full-on description, where, addresses, and even when they're shipping the product, it says, and for anyone who has seen a commercial contract, that seems pretty legit. A bill of lading typically has a description and where it's going and who's sending it, and probably a phone number or something to contact. But when the product is all supposed to be the same, why do we need a description of the product and the code of the product and detailed information of the product, and exactly not just where it's being delivered to, what port, but also the destination from that port, where it's going? And within 24 hours, you have to report back to Pfizer any benefits or negative adverse reactions. And not only that, but within 30 days of the stuff reaching its final destination, it all must be packed back up and sent back to Pfizer. Whereas anything else, it just gets thrown in the garbage. Once you've used it, it's gone. Pfizer wants everything back.
Maybe Trudeau's getting carbon credits on us.
You got it. Well, it's another way to bring in the carbon credits, which we know they've already been watching our spending. Right?
We are the carbon credits, and he's spending us very quickly.
Exactly. So what Cris kind of alluded to, which was the zoos and the biomes, is perhaps these batches. We all know howgoodisyourbatch.com, right? What if these batches were actually sent out to specific destinations because they were the crappy destinations, the crappy biomes, and all the good biomes got the saline because it's an experiment. They got the saline, which might be explaining why in some areas we're seeing horrific things happening, and in other areas we're not seeing anything. So we need to start diving into those areas where we're not seeing anything to understand what is there. Is there minerals? Is there soil better? Is there air better? Is there water better?
Right.
Is there a pure form of human race there?
Right. We thought that because we picked up that Israel and Canada were allowed to donate their product. South Africa was not. They weren't allowed to accept other product or give away their products. So their batches were just for them. And then you look at all the people call them global elites. Jody calls them global predators. I found a new term, the pedocrats. So they're all buying product or buying land in Costa Rica right now. So that tells you it's a pure biome, right? So
I saw the same pattern for a different objective, though, with the migrant pilot project program that they ran in Canada. Every location that was destined to get X number of migrants was also places where old mines had been cleaned out, sold, bought, and were places where there was rich in resources for the 15-minute cities and batteries, that kind of thing. So every location for the pilot programs was rich in those resources needed for 15-minute cities. So it's that same pattern, right? Mm-hmm. Same tool, different objectives. So if you're not following Sasha Latypova on Substack, you really should be.
Okay.
Apparently there's some pretty interesting features of northern Gaza which has just been cleared through bombing, and a corridor has been created to let the Palestinians, whether they're Christian or Muslim, get out. And apparently that's got a lot. Apparently it's been looked at for a long time as a potential path to create an extremely profitable and global market controlling canal. And then as well some gas wells. So they're from what I can see, the basically however you define Satanism, the strategists on the other side there, they're ruthless, and they're very good at multitasking, at accomplishing multiple things and integrating them, so that while you're doing this, you're actually achieving this and this and that. So just makes you wonder, I sure hope this is the year that we stop just analyzing their choreography of the species and see the species choreography of them, because I think humanity could be capable of actually creating a pretty cool existence here on a little garden planet, I don't know. I just think how many centuries is enough? I think the last ones was enough. I really hope that we cross over that hill, and I'll be glad to get good news,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that 2024 is going to be a defining year, partly because of the shenanigans that are going to come with the election. It's going to be a lot more exposure, a lot more crime, a lot less tolerance of it, and they cannot keep covering their tracks. The world's had enough, whether we haven't yet. Outside influences will make decisions on our behalf if we don't. So the best thing we can keep doing is being the cancer from the inside of that beast.
Has anyone looked into the study that's basically saying blood type has something to do with the side effects of the vaccine as well? So there was a study whether the vaccine has any side effects on the blood types, and we're also the only species on this planet with Rh negative blood. There's no other species with Rh negative, and then that kind of does not explain, I think, the evolutionary phase of like the whole monkey to humans thing. The one thing that I have learned about the parasites, as I call them, is like plan. They have a multifaceted, I guess, thing that they want to accomplish. So it's not just one thing that they want to accomplish. If they actually wanted eugenics, they would try and push the human race to be at its best, and then allow the lowest of the low to kind of fade away. However, what we are seeing is all the systems that are built are geared towards literally the most degenerate right now in society, who are flourishing. So if they wanted the best for us, a society with actual people with their own mind, they would have pushed the true science. They wouldn't be withholding knowledge. They wouldn't be withholding our history. They wouldn't be withholding a lot of the information that they do withhold. So their eugenics is just the way they pretty much, how should I say this? All of these, like all of the WEF, the UN, the Club of Rome's, they run on a self-paid kind of cult-like thing where these very rich, very bored, very dumb people feel useful in the world. So that eugenics story is pretty much just a story that they tell them to go over them. And the top elites know this. So they use this thing as, there's dumb people out there, they're degenerates and all of this stuff, and they need to go away, so that leaders like Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, who came from broken homes, who were probably MK Ultra and sex kittens themselves, feel important in these meetings, even though they're paying to be part of this cult. No one's part of WEF. You have to pay to be within WEF. But just being part of WEF, I guess, makes him feel like he is something on this planet. So the eugenics story is almost like a fairy tale being told to the lower end stupid people of the WEF on basically controlling us. The elites know, they know that they have hidden knowledge about our existence, about where we came from. There's something called the Red Bible that no one seems to know how to get a hold of, but apparently it tells us our entire truth about how we're on this planet. So it's really hard to kind of see their patterns on how they work and what their end goals are. But the one pattern that they do have is they're not very smart and they're not very creative. They cannot create. We are the ones that have to create that reality for them. That is why they constantly use the same playbook over and over again. And that is why I keep telling people, you know, just laugh at them. Like, it's not even serious. When the pandemic came out, I was out there without a mask on. People are like, oh, you're going to die. And I was like, okay, well, this planet's a dumpster fire anyway, so screw it, I'll risk it. And then nothing happened to me, you know? And that kind of mentality of, I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not going to like allow them to, you know, dictate my life. But at the same time, there's a very sinister thing that they want to do. And it's all about controlling us and having us create the reality that they want. So it's a bit of it's complicated with the elites. And I've studied them for 20 years. I mean, one thing I know is they're dumb. They are not smart. So that's a good thing.
Well, that's because they're inclusive, right? They don't reach out for outside help. They all have their and so they've got very limited ideas at this point. And I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. If they really wanted us to advance, they'd give us all the information and let us work collaboratively. No, I 100% agree with that. But there are a lot of people who believe that they're doing good for the planet, and that's how they get a bunch of them to buy in on that stuff. You know, and the other thing that I'm pretty convinced of is they're looking for something in Antarctica. And a lot of what's happening right now is basically keeping us distracted until they find it. So I don't want to get too far down that road, but
I think one of the things that we need to take as a positive, and this is kind of touching towards what Tajana was saying there. No, they're not smart. There is nothing about the elites that is from a point of exceptionalism. The only thing that they have that is exceptional is money. They have mountains of money. Beyond that, they haven't got nothing between the whole dang lot of them. This is why, as we have started to come together, we have become so effective at kicking their butts and getting ahead of them. And I think that these guys, you know, they have this timeline that they imagine these things to happen. And George Soros was supposed to have X done by this point, and then his son would have this period of time. Their destinies are written out before them. And I think that these guys have had to accelerate so fast that George isn't getting it done, and he's not leaving enough for his son to actually learn to do. So these guys are looking at their own offspring and going, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But what they do well is they work well together right now, because they all have the same goal and plan right now. And I keep saying right now, they are a cohesive, united unit. But when they accomplish whatever their goal is, that's when they will eat each other alive, because only one can play God. So that's something we have to get better at, is playing nice together and understanding that we have a goal. And for most of us, it's kind of the same goal. So we got to get on the same page and stop eating each other alive right now, so that we can work together to accomplish that goal. And once we get there, eat ourselves alive just like they're going to do. But let's come together now. That's what they've got over us. You know, there's only 8,000 of them, and there's what, almost 8 billion of us, and we can't seem to get it together to beat 8,000 people. It's crazy to me. I don't understand it.
If we could put our differences aside for 5 hot minutes and work on one project at a time together, and then go back to fighting with each other, this would be over and done with. I know that Mark has to get out here right away, so I just kind of wanted to let him have a final, speculation or look into the crystal ball, and even if it's just educated hope. What do you see coming for 2024, Mark?
Well, on one note, I could see me offering services in exchange for gifts in the form of silver and not accepting fiat currency anymore because it's a joke. And then I won't be making any fiat currency and I won't have to give them any of their fiat currency to pay taxes, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's a fun pressure point to think of, like, why do we still accept fake money, right? Isn't that bizarre? So I think we got to start thinking of ways to say, no, sorry, we don't accept fiat currency. You can pay in silver, eggs, or bottles of red wine or whatever it is. But on the other side, I think the educated optimism, I think at best I'll get away with that, but I'll be foolish and wander out of my area of specialty. I think it's the Book of Five Spheres. I think that's it, unless it's somewhere in The Art of War by Sun Tzu. But there's this idea that if you have to fight against an evil emperor, you do not want to raise your armies against their armies, because it's just lots of people dying fighting each other. Now, if you have two good emperors at war, it's a different situation. Everybody's going to be backing up their emperor, but two good emperors probably would live in peace. But in this situation, the people at the top of this cabal are clearly bad people. Like, you don't want to be in their world, even if you're just there to donate blood at an adrenochrome ceremony. Like, they're not good to anybody. They're not good for anybody. Even the people currently locked up in their castle making coffee for them, or polishing their golf clubs, or bringing small children to them, that's not a good life. Nobody wants that. So this idea is that
leaders of all.
Yeah. So the idea is that, they say, don't turn your armies against their armies, turn their armies against them. And then the ideal war is when working with the oppressed, all of us together. And it turns out they're in all of our governments, so we're all dealing with the evil emperor, right? But we need to take down the goblins and not be divided and not fight. We have to refuse to participate in their garbage, their wars, and maybe their fake currency, their fake banking system. They're telling us, oh, you won't be able to buy with this. Well, you know what? We don't want to buy your shit anymore. We only accept copper, gold, and eggs, and we're going to trade with each other. And I think there's a certain amount of exiting their system, and hopefully they take their own shots, and in the end, we can just gently nudge them off a stairwell somewhere.
Oh, wow, that's a whole lot of wonderful there, Mark. I could not agree with you more. One of my favorite quotes is Buckminster Fuller: "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And Mark has got a new medical model that works in exchange for silver and eggs. And for those that want to get that commodity, right down there at the bottom of the screen, these are the things that we are doing to create some of those parallel systems and economies, Mark. So I know where I'm getting the silver when I need to come and see my doctor.
Oh, and by the way, I want to give everybody a final hint on that. You just made me think maybe I have something valuable to offer besides just being goofy and loving you guys. Is a lot of people are reaching, like, I'm very busy at the front line of the medical legal division of this war. So that's the truth. I'd love to go into an emergency department and do something I love right now, but I have to hold down the guns that I'm manning, whether there's pay in it or not. But here's the thing. A lot of people right now in this country want to see a doctor or nurse they can trust. Like, they want to see Patrick Phillips or Chris Shoemaker or Chris Luchki or Roshane Killian, or there's so many good ones, right? And people want to see them, right? So what do? Because those doctors have all been stripped of their license to bill the government for fiat currency to take care of you and prescribe you big pharma's drugs. Because they stood up for you, because they followed their oaths, because they did the right things. Well, here it is. As I understand it, even if they're not doing it, say, listen, please, I'll do the paperwork. Let's form a private membership association. And we want Roshane Killian here up in Owen Sound, we want you to be a member so we can come and talk to you and get advice, and you can fill my belly and think what you want or do whatever private members want to do. And I'm going to make a point to leave a few ounces of silver on the counter, Roshane Killian. It's that simple, people. you can reach out and get those, because I get people all the time. I still want to see you. I still want to see you. But there's a few people doing it. It can be done. I'll be doing it as soon as these guns cool down a bit, and I could see some of these vampires dangling, off trees somewhere, metaphorically speaking, in my opinion, blah, blah, blah. I love you guys.
Love you too, Mark.
We'll be lining up some appointments soon, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. If not, I'll be in the cell next door.
There you go.
Well, thanks for everything that you do, Mark, and I know that there's nobody that I have to tell to, I don't have to tell you to keep fighting. I know that you're fighting with love and you're moving forward every single day. So I appreciate you. For anybody that's out there that doesn't know where to find you, Mark, where do they touch base with you?
So drtrozzi.org. I am on Twitter also at drtrozzi, but always good to sign up for a newsletter so that if Elon Musk gets a glitch in his head or the remote control in Schwab's hand glitches or whatever, you don't lose touch with us. So drtrozzi.org. And of course, the World Council for Health. And I'm a big fan of the Fringe Majority, What's Up Canada. And I'm just getting to meet you, Tanya. So truly a pleasure.
Right on. Awesome. Well, you have yourself an amazing New Year's, and we will chat early in the next one.
Perfect. If you're in Toronto or anywhere nearby, I'm going to be at an Adam Skelly fundraiser, probably recommending genetic shots and passing them out to the government.
That's New Year's Eve, folks. New Year's Eve.
And Jody and Cris will be there. Are you coming,
Yes,
Don?
we will be.
All right. Well, let's fly Wayne in.
Sounds good.
See you guys. Have a great one.
Bye, Mark.
Bye.
It's pretty awesome getting to hang out with people that can take life with a little grain of salt. I think we need a lot more of that. So we're kind of winding down here. What do you guys want to throw out there for the last 10, 15 minutes? And make sure you tell people where to find y'all for all your stuff. Tajana, you seem to be somewhat of a mystery for some of the people out here that are watching on some of these platforms. So you better make sure you get your threads out there.
Oh, Tajana, or I guess it's spelled Tajana. Tajana Truth Seeker 01011. If you Google it, you'll find a bunch of stuff on me. But yeah. I was going to say about the elites, they actually don't work well together because they're very narcissistic and they all want to go on top. They keep each other in line through blackmail. And if anybody can hack their blackmail, it's just Jenga pieces. You just got to take out the right one and the whole thing comes kind of tumbling down, because I think we've learned as, human beings, we don't really work well together. So we have to kind of use their game plan against them. And Epstein, that's his whole business, was basically blackmailing people to get videos of compromised positions, of compromised very high up end people, so that they can then make them do what they want to do. So I think if we learned how to blackmail, or at least opened up that vault of blackmail that they do have, that would pretty much be the Jenga pieces that we take out. As for us working together, I mean, that's a great utopian thing, but I've worked with a bunch of people in groups, and usually the egos get in the way of that. Yeah. So I think if we learned how to reveal their blackmails that they have on each other, that would be their complete end game, and we would end everything in 5 minutes. I guess if anybody wants to know, I just study the elites. I have a bachelor's in science. The vaccine thing really pissed me off, I guess, in the sense of the absolute atrocity that they made in the name of science. And that kind of made me speak out a lot about that. But I am into the world of the elites and everything that they have built over the last, 3 4 centuries now, hoping to reveal the truth of why we're here, what's the purpose of us on this planet. And then it kind of took me into the political realm, because they run the political realm exactly the way they run their occults and their other cult-like things. And cults basically run on pure blackmail on that level. That's why we haven't seen anything with the Epstein list come out. Now we're just going to see the lay-lowing fruit, and let's hope that those bastards chirp on each other like a bunch of canaries.
I think, I think this is something that I talked about a while back. One of my favorite subjects, the Epstein story and blackmail and all of that. The corruption goes so deep, you couldn't write, fantasy novels that track that as well as they have. But Trudeau, not just Justin, but Sophie is on the list. I think that there needs to be some major discussion and some major questions asked by others than just us. And that's something that I'm looking forward to peeling back more layers on coming into the new year. But I think that that's a critical part of how we got here, that whole blackmailing enterprise. That goes so deep. And that goes right to the heart of what's going on in Israel right now. Everybody wonders why America just seems to do whatever Israel asks. Epstein was just the face. The Ghislaine and the Maxwell family, far, far more dangerous and diabolical than Epstein could ever have dreamt to be. Ghislaine, as evil as she is only one of 8. And they are all very loyal to the doctrine that they served, shall we say, rather to refrain from giving it a label and a name, because I don't care about religion. This is about crime, corruption, and just pure evil. That whole family is pure evil, and they're responsible for the controlling. Politicians, I think there's less politicians with sponsors as there are with blackmail controllers to the likes of that group, is just my thought.
Well, that's how the actually took over the entire UK royalty. And who signed Israel into a country? It was Churchill. And then who pulled the United States into all these wars? It was the UK. And I think a lot of people point their fingers at Israel and the United States when they don't actually realize that the UK has been setting all of this up with blackmail for many centuries, pulling in other countries and then using one country to puppeteer another country to the point where you can't really tell. But if you look at the UK, who runs the show, Switzerland, who provides pretty much the monetary value, and then the Vatican, who controls the religions and is pretty much the #1 trafficking for children. If you look at those 3 entities, then people will start to realize who actually runs the show. And the levels of the elites, there's always one that rules them all, and then it goes into level 3, 5, and then the United States is on the level of 9 when it comes to like the Bilderberg guys and those guys. And that's kind of why when 2020 happened, I saw the entire thing play out exactly the way they kind of like use it, the way they use countries in the past. And so that's why I always tell people, if you get right with yourself, you let go of your ego, you self-reflect, and you kind of get grounded without being emotional. That's when you will really start to see what's going on around in the world and how like the entire chess game is being played. And it's being played on a 5D level. Like it's not just a one plane level where you can kind of see something from black or white. You have to really think in a multi-dimensional way in order to realize that the games that they're playing with us.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. It's not any one outcome. So when everybody says they're doing this is who's doing this, and this is what they're doing, everyone's pretty much right, because there's always an aspect. So yeah, absolutely. And we have our own evil families here in Canada that we don't talk about. I probably won't say it here, but we can definitely pour a Seagrams and talk about it at some point.
There is one little part of that Balfour Declaration in what was it, 1917 or something, that to hasten the process of establishing Israel as a nation to fulfill prophecy. Nobody wants to ask what prophecy were they talking about fulfilling in 1917 at the hands of the British government? What was in that guy's head? What was he thinking? What is he even talking about? That's a discussion that will band.
Right. Yeah, I definitely will want to talk to you offline, Tiana. So we got lots to talk about.
Match what we're finding with what you found, and maybe we'll have a nice little tower of strength built.
If it goes well, I'll get you a red Bible for your birthday.
If you can find that, I've been searching for that probably for like 20 years now. So if I could get my hands on that bad boy, that would be amazing.
No, we'll see what we
Diana, do me a favor and in the back, a private chat, throw your link, how it's spelled, because the year 010111, that's just, let me share it to the folks instead of trying to.
I apologize for my nerd code and my binary, but I will definitely put it in there right now. I'm on my phone. I apologize.
All right, and that's I'll drop that in the chat for you guys here right away, so you guys can track Tajana down. Cris and Jody, what you guys taking a couple of days off, or what's your first sledgehammer swing coming up?
Well, sort of. We're off shows right now until the 5th. 4th, but Jody's working really hard on the Adam Skelly event. This is New Year's, so that's a couple days away. So we've been scrambling to get ready for that.
We've been crafting today, making all the centerpieces for the event. Cris has got, every time I turn and look at him, he's got sparkles all over his face.
Yeah.
That's why you got the lights down so low.
That's right. Glitter is basically the Hermes of the craft world. So
didn't want anybody to get any conspiracy theories about Cris glowing.
Yeah, so we decided to take 3 shows off. So we're not gone a full 2 weeks, but long enough for us to at least get a little bit of downtime and be able to focus on the Adamson Barbecue Rebellion New Year's Eve event, trying to raise money for this very uber important legal challenge that will actually affect all Canadians. So we've been working really hard on that. And then we've been trying to finish up Chris's Substack on the Pfizer contracts and really deep dive and detail information so that people understand it, because it's one thing to look at it and see all the black redactions, but it's another thing to read what you actually can see and understand what it's saying, because the contracts, of course, are all in legalese, and most people don't speak legalese. And even as we're going through it, Cris is going through it, and then he's like, "Hey, Joe, come in and what do you think?" And I've gone through it, and my notes are a little different from Chris's, and it's like, "Oh, wow, you saw that? Well, I read this." And so it'll be interesting when he's done doing that.
Yeah, basically, we're taking all 3 contracts and reconstructing the redactions. And they're just, our government is evil. I'm going to come straight out and say it. They are evil, and they know exactly what they're doing, and have no problem killing Canadians. Our government is evil to the core. So prove me wrong in court, government. Full disclosure. Let's talk. Yeah.
I would love for somebody to actually take this contract to court, because then they would have to unredact the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Cris has been, well, I think that this is what it says. And I'm like, no. My legal brain goes, no. We can't say that. Make sure we have disclaimers and whatever. And he's like, you know what? Bring it. Let the government sue us for slander or misinformation, disinformation, because then they will have to reveal in a court of law exactly what that contract says in order to prove that what we've managed to piecemeal together isn't actually what the contract says.
Right. And there's a lot of deep stuff, but the only thing that's going to probably make social media when it gets the rounds going is the fact that Anita Anand signed a contract that said that when they're talking about people, they're talking about genders, and this includes both genders. So she kind of signed a contract that stated that they believe there's only 2 genders. So that's going to hit the rounds at some point, right?
I look forward to it, and I'll keep building places. I've been test driving the 2.0 version of LGM. It's going to be powerful for delivering information in different ways that nobody's ever seen before coming into the new year. So I look forward to moving that out. to the world a whole lot more of it. I think that 2024 is going to be a massive year for that. As try as they might, I think what we're seeing this week is a better example of the media environment than anything we've seen for years and years and years. So I'm excited and encouraged by that very much so. There was something else that was actually even kind of relevant and important, but yeah. Oh, yes, the petition by Leslie Lewis.
Yes.
I think that's something that we need to make a concerted effort upon. And people have the wrong impression. I don't talk about and endorse and encourage signatures on a petition like this because I think it's going to provide remedy. I don't have any delusions about that. But what it will do is force it into an echo chamber to be heard that we have no access to, and then it becomes undeniable to the universe and to the world. That provides the credibility for the rest of the world to jump on board of what we're doing here. So I really am looking for everybody to help push the Leslie Lewis petition. We've got till the end of February, I think, on that, so I'll be talking about that an awful lot. So don't crucify me because I'm endorsing a petition. I'm not endorsing a politician. I'm endorsing a petition so that we can have a discussion and not get called kooks, crazies, radicals, racists, or anything else.
Yeah.
So that's my point on that.
At the end of the day, there's so many angles to this fight, and every angle counts, whether it's a petition, whether it's politics, whether it's the medical field, whether it's the legal system, whether it's the school system. Every angle counts. And the more information we can put out into the mainstream and get into people's ears, 21 points of contact before people actually understand what it is they're seeing, reading, or touching. So the more times we can do this in many different formats, the better it is for Canadians as a whole and for humanity as a whole.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But I think we're on the same page as Tajana there, that they've been pulling the strings for centuries. They manipulated First World War and they went away, and they came back. Second World War, they went away. Now they're back again. We want to do this once and for all. We want to get rid of them once and for all because they just keep coming back. So we're trying to decode, just like you are. We're trying to decode what they think, how they think, what they do, deconstruct that. Because at the end of the day, there are key wing nuts that you can pull out of their system, and it just pulls right down. But it's hours of research to find that wing nut, right? So.
To beat your enemy, you got to know your enemy. So knowledge is power. Knowledge is king, and so is cash.
So I think look for a lot of problem solution this year. They have a lot of hopes pinned on 2025 for control of the population. They want to get us into that biodigital convergence, those 50-minute cities. They want to get us on digital ID CBDCs by 2025. So look for a lot of probleming in 2024 so they can bring the solutions in.
And watch for the infrastructure going up around us, because they have to have the infrastructure in play before they can roll out their agenda. So if we can somehow get some experts in some fields to help pull down, one, map where the infrastructure is going, and two, maybe help us pull it down or put some kinks in there.
Just because 5G is the major weapon for the enemy against us, that does not mean we're advocating for taking down those 5G towers with angle grinders and napalm, and which you can make yourself with gasoline and styrofoam. Like, we are not advocating for any of that stuff.
Oil and black paint balloons, none of that. But yeah.
So Wayne's a little nervous now.
I think the games have already begun, whether it's here or elsewhere. There are people that are way further ahead of us in those kind of shenanigans. So I think we're still pretty docile as far as the hooligan brigade here so far, anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, and film it too, because 5G towers got brought down in Quebec, and nobody knows about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, very
cool beans. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for taking the time to come here and just chill and banter and talk about what was and what might possibly be, and we'll round it up again for next year and see how good we were.
Perfect. Thanks for having us, Wayne. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Oh, okay. Wow, that was hard on my brain. We covered a lot of ground there. Good, bad, or otherwise. Pardon and forgive me for the audio issues, guys. I'm not sure what that is. I have no clue, to be honest with you. I have not changed anything with my setup, but this is 2 days in a row I've had issue. I will absolutely get to the bottom of it before we do this again tomorrow night. Same time, same place. Got some heavy hitters coming tomorrow night. Marty up north, Sheldon Yakchuk from Yak Stack, Chris Erickson, some big wigs, and some other ones coming again tomorrow. So I got to get this audio fixed now. I figured it wasn't really my setup. It's something to do with the interface here, but I'll look into that for sure. But yeah, thanks, guys. This was absolutely awesome. So many comments. I apologize. No way for me to watch what you guys are all saying and doing, but massive shout out to the sponsors that are letting us do this. Patriot Switch, guys. This is life changing. This is a movement. It's not a partnership. This is a movement. We're literally not boycotting anybody, but we are defunding the cabal, one household, one home, one toothbrush, and one bottle of shampoo at a time. And you know what? It's working. And this is how we beat them, by living outside of their system. And so that's the Patriot Switch movement, guys. If you're curious, click the link. You find it on the website. Talk to one of our people. Somebody from our team will reach out to you and give you the one-on-one tour and answer any questions you might have. We'll have a little bit of a Patriot party coming up in a couple of weeks as well, early in the new year. You guys are going to be hearing a lot about this, because this is such an amazing thing that helps us support and fill in the gaps with our alternative communities, our farmers, our shop locals. It's a way to beat the system as well as defund them. And obviously, New World Precious Metals, these guys are patriots just like us. They have gone out of their way to create systems to help people protect their money, get it out of the banking system into something safe and tangible. And what you do with it from there is your business, your concern. It is not going to be taken by the government. So those are the guys that we are proud to work with, because they are here to serve you guys in whatever needs that they can help you with. So I love you guys all. Stay Canadian, stay strong. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Stay blessed. I hope everybody has an amazing new year. I know it's going to be a most interesting new year, but I hope you guys tune in tomorrow with a whole new, different panel, and likely some way more new discussions. So love y'all. Bye for now.